So let's talk about contraindications and cautions. First and foremost in the neck, the carotid artery. I often like to have people take 2 fingers, lay it right on your voice box, not to the side, but right on your voice box, and just slide them to the back very gently, and you'll feel the carotid artery pulse. We always use fingers, never the thumb, because the thumb has a pulse of its own. We must find that pulse and avoid it before we do any neck work. We don't push on arteries. That's one place we do not push. On any arterial pulse, we will move away. If it's the sternocleidomastoid, we'll pull it away. We have a really neat technique, as you'll see, of how to pull that sternocleidomastoid away from the carotid artery so that there's no possibility of interaction with the carotid. We would never press on the sternocleidomastoid that way, for instance, into the neck. It just is not going to happen. We want to move it away in such a way that we isolate it just like that and can treat it very thoroughly and very conveniently. If you want to make sure you know where the sternocleidomastoid is, have your client just rotate the head very slightly and then ask him to just begin to raise his head off the table. And there it is. In fact, raise your head up just a little bit more, not off the table, but right there. You see the 2 heads. Here's the sternal head of sternocleidomastoid, and here's the clavicular head. So we want to take those all together and then try to separate them. Bring your head down and back into this position. We do want it in a position of slack. Many people, you will see, treat the sternocleidomastoid by putting it in this position to find it, and then they treat it in this position. Not such a good idea because of the carotid artery under there, and it's just difficult to get to, unless I'm gliding it, which is perfectly fine. Can glide down the sternocleidomastoid in this fashion. That's perfectly fine, but that's only the beginning of the treatment for this all-important muscle. Bring the head back on the headrest. In fact, tilt the head to the side just a little bit. And now I'm going to come around to the side and treat. You won't see my face, but you'll see how I do this now that I don't use thumbs. I used to use thumbs in this fashion, but that is difficult for these thumbs, so now I do it this way. Left hand goes under, and I want him giving me plenty of slack there, and the right hand goes right there to isolate sternocleidomastoid. Now I can work with the fibers, and I can work a little rolling, and I can squeeze. I can work up the length of that muscle in just this fashion. I can work down lower on it. I can follow it to its insertion at the sternum and the clavicle. There it is still, the sternocleidomastoid, and pulled away from the all-important carotid artery right down there, and I want to stay lateral to that in my scooping and pulling. I can separate the 2 muscles by letting one pop away like that, and then the other one is right there, the clavicular head. So I can grab both heads. There's one popping away, and there they are together. Pressure tolerable? Notice I don't ask him if it hurts. I ask him if the pressure is tolerable, and he gives me a yes or no answer. So a thorough treatment of the sternocleidomastoid.